We haven't talked about a Sri Lankan indie game in a while, and that, my friends, changed today. I recently played Journey Through The Undead, an indie zombie shooter game developed by a two-person indie team in Sri Lanka. I was lucky enough to play the demo a while back, and now I play the full game ahead of launch. It's launching on 15th of January, so by the time you watch this, it's already out on Steam. This video is not sponsored, but the developers, Dazzling Divine, they provided me with a copy of the game early on, and they have asked me to play it and been given full freedom to be honest and put my thoughts forward. So let's talk about Journey Through the Undead. What does it do well, and where it struggles, and whether it's actually worth your time. Let's go. Alright, before we get into it, I want to set some expectations properly, because Journey Through the Undead is an indie game developed by a two-person team in Sri Lanka, and they're still very much learning on the job as well, as I see it. So I'm reviewing this game with that in mind, and I'm not going to compare it or judge it at the same level as big budget AA or AAA games made by massive teams with years of resources behind them. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go easy on it. It just means that I'm reviewing the game for what it's trying to be, not what it was never meant to compete with. All right, now that's out of the way, let's talk about the game. Journey Through the Undead is a third-person zombie shooter where you blast through hordes of zombies, undead, using guns, melee weapons, grenades, and whatever else you can get your hands on. The game, I think, takes place across a mutated, eerie world that's inspired by Sri Lankan landscapes, I think. This isn't just your typical like grey, depressing zombie apocalypse that you normally have grown accustomed to. There's a sense of mystery baked into the environments that you are in. But before we talked about the full game, I want to quickly touch on my experience with the demo. I won't spend too much time on the demo since I've already covered in detail in another video. You can check it out right here. Short version is the demo is pretty stable. The core gameplay showed a lot of promise, but there was noticeable issues, especially with the assets and texture popping. Uneven healing balance issues and gunplay didn't always feel satisfying, particularly when aiming down sights. A lot of feedback came out of that session, and thankfully, this is important, much of it has been addressed in the full game, which is great. So let's talk about the full game itself. One important thing to understand is that the demo only covers the opening moments of the game, and those opening moments are pretty slow paced. The full game opens up significantly after that. At its core, Journey Through the Undead is a straightforward zombie shooter with a very clear indie feel, but where it really stands out is its setting and atmosphere. The environments feel pretty heavily inspired by Sri Lankan tropical landscapes. You're moving through dense forest and swampy areas and overgrown ruins that feel humid, eerie, and alive. And you start in a city area, but as the game progresses, you're thrown into these set pieces, which contrast nicely with the concrete jungle without losing that unsettling tone. What really caught me off guard were the surreal elements layered on top of all this. You'll see giant eagle, I think it was a giant eagle, flying, soaring across the sky at some point, and really it kind of takes you back and stop on your tracks and enjoy the moment a little bit. And then there was a moment where a massive giant elephant, like the size of a dinosaur, was charging through the forest and chased away this hulking zombie that was coming after me. That was pretty crazy. These are the kind of moments that feel almost mythical rather than purely apocalyptic. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you more than that because, you know, spoilers. Even the gameplay that you're seeing here is just the first 2 hours of the game, so nothing too spoilery for you. My point is, it creates this strange mix of beauty and danger, like you're exploring a world that's been corrupted but not completely destroyed. And the use of these tropical settings in for a zombie game, it kind of reminded me of Dead Island 2 a little bit in a way, which is a great thing because it's a good game. At the same time, it's pretty unique. You know, none of this feels like it's trying to copy Western zombie games. It feels like its own interpretation. And that's one of the game's biggest strengths. Let's talk about combat. Combat in the full game definitely feels improved compared to the demo. Weapons are more responsive, enemy encounters are more varied, and there's a better sense of flow as you move through levels. That said, the gunplay could still be improved a little bit, at least for my taste. But I'll be fair because I'm probably a little bit spoiled because I've spent years playing Battlefield and Call of Duty and other shooters that arguably offer some of the best FPS gunplay in the industry. It wouldn't be fair to directly compare Journey Through the Undead to those games, obviously. However, when you're fighting zombies, especially up close, the gunplay still needs to hit a certain level of satisfaction. That moment where you land a kill and get that inevitable dopamine hit that makes you want to keep pushing forward, that's something the game doesn't always nail, and I think that could be improved a little bit in terms of gunplay. Aiming down sights in particular can still feel a little bit uncontrollable at times, but it's not a deal breaker though. On the melee side, there's a massive improvement from the demo. The developers now have added weapon durability to melee weapons, which was feedback I gave after the demo. This adds a pretty nice layer of decision making and light inventory management, and it honestly feels like something that the game needed. There's still no clear indication of melee weapon damage or range though. Some weapons feel stronger or longer reaching than others, but without that you're kind of relying on feel or an experience, and it's kind of raw. Kind of dig it actually, but I understand some people might not be into that. It's also worth noticing that based on my feedback from the demo, they have also now added inventory bar. It's for throwables like your grenade types. It wasn't present in the demo, I believe, and I've suggested that something like a weapons wheel or inventory wheel would be really handy. They haven't quite added that for, you know, your health pickups or other the weapons or anything. However, for the grenades, it has a throwables bar that you can pick your grenades out of. It's not a wheel, it's a bar, but it's better than nothing. It works, it gets the job done. One thing I did notice, and I'm not sure whether this is a bug or intentional, is some inconsistency with weapon magazine size and ammo capacity. Let me explain. Between levels, the same weapon would sometimes have like 50 round mag for the same gun, and then other times it would drop to 20 or 30. It's kind of random. Even the number of mags you could carry sometimes seems to change without explanation. Again, this could be intentional, but I don't know if it is, why that is. So I think it's most likely a bug that they need to fix, but it's something that I just wanted to point out anyway. Let's talk about the visuals. Visually, the game is genuinely impressive for a small indie team. The assets and texture popping that I talked about in the demo, it's been largely fixed in the full game. I'm happy to report. It's not completely gone though, but it's now subtle enough that it rarely distracts from the gameplay, which is a huge improvement. Massive improvement. Sound design is mostly minimal but effective. Gun sounds and effects feels pretty serviceable. Speculating, not confirmed, but I'm assuming it's come from a lot of the sound effects are coming from the stock libraries, but it's not necessarily a bad thing here. It fits the scope of the game and doesn't break immersion, so no complaint there. One standout moment for me though was the background music. In some levels, I experienced these Eastern inspired music. You won't actually experience that until few levels into the game. The first few levels is pretty like Western music because you're in a city. But once you go into the forest areas, this Eastern inspired music plays, which was completely unexpected for me. And honestly, a welcome surprise actually. Combined with those tropical environments and distant zombie sounds, and you see them running around, it creates this eerie, unsettling atmosphere that really works for the game somehow, and I really enjoyed that. It's a small touch, but it adds identity to the game in a way a lot of indie shooters don't even attempt. Zombie audio is pretty solid as well, though it could be improved. It's not perfect. Enemy variety improves as you progress as well, which is great. There's a lot of different types of zombies that you come across. Again, once you start, if you play the demo, which is free for you to try on the Steam store, it only covers your base level zombies. You never really come across another type. But in the full game, you actually get a whole different types of zombies that are progressively more dangerous and more interesting as the game progresses compared to your basic enemies you encounter early on, which you'll still encounter throughout as well. There's a nice mix up of enemies. So where does Journey Through the Undead land? This is not a perfect game, and it's not trying to be either. If you go in expecting AAA polish, hyper refined gunplay, or massive production values, you're probably gonna get disappointed because, you know, this is a 2-person indie title. But if you enjoy zombie shooters, appreciate indie creativity, and are willing to meet the game on its own terms, there's a lot to like here. Absolutely a lot. The atmosphere is pretty strong. The setting itself feels pretty unique, you know, the Sri Lankan landscape settings and forest settings in a zombie game, really cool. And the fact that this comes from a 2-person Sri Lankan team makes it even more impressive. It has rough edges, like I said before. It has systems that could be improved, but also has a lot of heart, a lot of charm, personality, and moments that genuinely surprise me. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I really want you to experience it for yourself if you're planning on playing it. Yeah, after all, I did end up having a pretty good time with Journey Through the Undead. Not a perfect time, but a really good time. And I think you might also have a good time as well if you try it. Huge thanks to Dazzling Divine for providing me with a review copy of the game ahead of launch, and for being so cool enough to let me share my honest feedback. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and please consider subscribing. That really helps me out. Anyway, catch you in the next one. Bye bye.